All right, it is 9 o'clock. I would like to thank everyone for coming to attend today's SimpleQI presentation. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Michael Iantoska, who is a representative from SimpleQI and will be showing us how to use SimpleQI to enter data and to use it for resources throughout the project. Michael, you are free to begin.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to run everyone through the basics of using SimpleQI from a team member's perspective. And we'll leave some time at the end for questions. And if there's any questions during the presentation, you can just put something in the chat or just hold it to the end. And I'll be glad to answer anyone's questions. All right. So the first thing you're going to be receiving is an email with a invitation link to join SimpleQI. I'm assuming none of you are already registered with the site. So what will happen is you'll click on the link and you'll come to the registration screen, which is very simple. It's first name, last name, email, password, and password confirm. And then we just have to check off the robot box and then just agree to the terms and privacy policy. And then once you're registered, if you have a role assignment already on a team, you'll automatically be sent directly into the project site, which is right here. And because you are team members, you'll be directed to your team homepage. So this one is an example of somebody who logged in under Capital Health. They'll automatically be directed to this page. You can also switch between teams to take a look at other teams' information as the project gets going and as people start working on things. You'll be able to find valuable information on their team homepage, whether it be documents that they uploaded. If you want to ask them a question, you can ask it in the discussions area. So I'll show you what this looks like. So you can easily switch between teams. But your team will always appear at the top. It'll have a star next to it. And when you log in, that's the page you'll automatically be sent to. But you can also navigate around by switching the team right here. So I can go to family medicine and so forth. So I'll go back to Capital Health. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do, I'm assuming most of the people on the phone are probably the team administrators or key contacts. You'll be adding people to your team. So the way it works is you come over to the people section. And we can see that actually there's a couple people already invited to the Capital Health team. And these people are not currently registered. So what will happen is when they do register, they'll automatically get that role assignment. And then they'll be given access to this team homepage. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a demo project just because I don't want to clutter the real project with all this sort of training information. So we'll go into a demo project here and I can show you how to actually assign roles and such. So I'll come in here. So now we're in our demo project and I will go back to the people section. And you can see there's 4 members on this team. If you wanted to look at somebody's profile, you could just click on it. And basically what it shows you is their name, their email address, and any roles that they may have been assigned. If you wanted to remove somebody from the team, you could just come in to their profile and just delete all of their role assignments. And then they will no longer have access to the team homepage. So to actually add a new person, we'll come up here. And I'm going to put in someone I know doesn't exist, test at sample.com. And I'm going to select a role. So these roles will give people different capabilities in the team site. So the team administrator and key contact have full access. And full access means that you can create new measures, you can upload resources, you can add people to the team, and things like that. Team contributors cannot assign roles. They can add documents, they can enter data and things like that. If you wanted somebody to come in as just a pure viewer, somebody who can't change anything, but can view everything in there, you would add them either as a team guest or a team viewer. Okay. If there's any, oh, sorry. If there's any questions about what permissions each role has, you could just click on this link and it brings up a document showing that. So let me just type in their email address again, sample at sample.com. I'll say I'm going to add them as a team contributor, and then I'll click add. And I know this person isn't registered. So what you'll see is a notice that's saying this person's not registered yet, but what you can do is invite them. So I'll click invite, and that's what adds them to the invitation list on the right-hand side. And it also sent them an email. And if you hear from people saying they didn't receive the email, maybe it got picked up in their junk mail, maybe they deleted it out of their junk mail, you can simply come back in and click on the envelope, which will resend that invitation email. If you want to cancel the invitation, you can just click delete. Okay. So that's how you would add all the team members to your team. And you can add as many people as you want. So there's no limit in terms of who you add to it. So let's see, let me show you how to add resources to your homepage. So what you let me just give you a quick orientation to the team homepage, and then I'll dig into the resources. So in the upper left-hand corner, we have the team aim, which by default is the one that's defined on the project level. And you can edit it if you want. Most teams don't edit it, but you can come in and edit the standard aim and make it your own. If you wanted to change a goal or something like that, or just add some additional information, you could add that as well. But that's definitely not required. You could just stick with the default one. The newest team resources show the resources that have been uploaded most recently, the top 5, from starting with the newest and going to the oldest. And below that are any team discussions. So people can come in and ask you questions using your team discussion functionality, or you can carry on conversations with your own team. And everyone on the team gets notified when there's new discussions that get entered. On the upper right-hand side is where you can gain access to the measures to do data entry. You can also click on the left-hand side and click on measures. But if we select a measure here, we can go directly into that data entry screen for that, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then below this, the most active standard changes is not really relevant for this project because you don't have a driver diagram just yet, which is something that comes later on in a project's life cycle. And then there's also the project resources. So as project staff upload documents, they may say they uploaded a new template, or they uploaded a new presentation, or a link to a video. You'll see those here. And this shows the newest. You can view all of them by going to the view resources here. And then there's also project level discussions. So if you wanted to ask a question of everyone on the project, you could post a question to the project discussions. Okay, so there's 2 different discussions here. These are just for your team. These are for everybody on the project. Okay, so let me go into the resources. And the resources can be just a very long list, or you can organize them using folders. So as you add more documents, you may want to think about adding folders so that you can organize it a little bit. For instance, if you have a bunch of meeting minutes you want to share, you can create a folder called meeting minutes. And then if you have different types of meetings, you can actually create subfolders and so forth. So there's pretty much unlimited levels of folders that you can create. So I'll just go back to the top. And I can add files one at a time using the file picker. Or I can drag and drop, which is nice if you have a bunch of files that you want to upload. So let me just minimize that. So I have some test documents here. And what I'll do is show you if you have 2 or 3 that you want to upload, you can just pick them here and then just drag them right into here. And that's it. Okay, so it makes it easy, especially when if you have a bunch of documents up front that you want to load, you can just drag them all in there and upload them. You can also add links. So this is an example of a link right here. You just basically click that, give it a title, enter the URL, click add, and it'll add it to your list of resources. And the folders are pretty straightforward. So I'll say this is my new folder. And it just shows up in the list of folders. If I want to get rid of a folder or a document, I can just delete them as well. Okay, so I'll go back to the larger view here. So pretty simple in terms of adding resources. The project does have quite a bit of available space. So you can upload rather large files if you need to without worrying about it. And let's see. So why don't we go over to the data entry piece? So this is probably the most interesting. So again, I showed you that there's a drop-down list here of all the measures that your team can enter data for. So you can jump directly to a measure to see the data entry screen. And this is nice because you don't have to dig around in the list. You can go directly in. You can view the chart of the data that may already be in there. And then to enter data, it's very much like a spreadsheet. So if you have data in here already and you wanted to edit a data point, so let's say this shouldn't be 68, it should be 67. I can change that. You don't have to click save. It automatically updates the calculation as soon as you move away from it. If you wanted to annotate a point, so this is, say, a note, you could see that the circle has turned into a diamond, and if you hover over it, it tells you what that annotation is. Okay. One thing that you might be able to take advantage of is if you have baseline data, is you can actually import it instead of having to manually enter it. So let me see if I can find an empty measure. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to switch teams, and I'm going to go into a measure. Let's see. Okay, so this is an example of a empty measure, and instead of manually entering all the data that you may have, say you have a year's worth of data you want to put in there, so the way you would manually do it is you would select the first data point you want to enter, and then go ahead and enter the data for that. Or you can import it. So I'm going to move this out of the way again. And I'm going to bring up some demo data just so that we can show what it looks like to import it. So basically, the only thing you have to remember is the data has to be laid out the same way that this little example is laid out. So whatever the measure is, it'll show you whether it's a monthly date or a weekly date or whatever it might be. So you just have to make sure your data has as its first column a monthly date, the numerator, and the denominator. So this is an actual rate, not a percentage, but this will work. And I come over here to Excel, and I select my columns. As long as they're lined up in the same way, I could just click copy, and then come back to SimpleQI and do Control V or paste. And I'll make this larger so we can all see it. So what it does is it makes sure that each date, there's only one date per month, and that there's a numerator and denominator for every single time period. If it looks good, click import, and then it brings your data directly into that measure. So that you'll only use this if you have some baseline data that you want to bring into your measure. So let me switch back to this. So now I'm back on the Andover Adult Specialties team homepage. The other way you can get to your measures is on the left-hand side. You can click on the measures section, and then you can see the list of all your measures. You also have the ability to create custom measures. So again, as the project proceeds, if you're doing any quality improvement projects and you want to track the data for those, you can do those directly in here, and they're shown in separate lists, but they're all stored in your team homepage. To I'm not sure if you want me to cover creating a new measure, if that's something that we could cover at a later session
Right. I think we would want to do that as a later session, Michael.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's keep it
Thanks.
simple then. All right. So let me go back into the measure. So as you can see, we have a chart. If anyone's familiar with run charts, the system does analyze your data as you're entering it and checks for certain signals of change. Again, we'll probably talk about that at a later date, but just so you know, the analysis panel right here, if there's any signals of change in your data, you'll see a circle with a number in it. And then it shows the any signals that have been picked up. One second. Okay. So if I wanted to add a new data point, I would just click either the button on the left, which will go in the past, or the button in the future, which will obviously go to the next time period. You can add a whole bunch of time periods if you want. So if you know that you have 4 data points you want to enter, you can go ahead and do that. And then I can enter this. And you can see as I'm doing that, it automatically just adds the points to the chart and so forth. Okay. If I want this chart now and I want to put it into a report or email it to somebody, what I can do is come over here to the actions and I can export the chart. And there's a lot of stuff on here, so you can actually turn things on and off. If you wanted to turn off the run chart signals, because that's not what you want people to focus on, you can just shut that off. You can also shut off the goal line if there's a goal, and you can also turn off the annotations. If you leave the annotations on and you just want to reposition them, what you can do is move them around to make them a little bit nicer. And once they're in the right position, you can say export chart. And it creates a nice high resolution PNG and downloads it. And then you can add this directly to a presentation or a Word document or whatever you want to do to share it. Okay. If you wanted to do analysis on your data, so this is how you would download individual data for a measure. I would just click up here and say download data. And what it does is it downloads a CSV file, which will automatically open in Excel if you have Excel installed. And this way you can do your own charts if you don't like the way that SimpleQI does the charts, or if you just want to do some different analysis with it, you can download it that way. So I'll just close that. Okay. I'll show you some of the reports that are available in here as well. So if I go to the report section, you can see your team measures. So I'll go ahead and select that. And what this shows you is all of the measures that your team has entered with all the data, and also any of the run chart rules that may have been triggered as well. If you wanted to download all of your measure data, you could come here and say download data, and this will take all of this data here and download it into one giant spreadsheet. Okay, you can also print this report as well. So I'll go back to the reports. We can also look at aggregate charts. So because this project's going to have a bunch of standard project measures, you can actually take a look across the entire project. And what this does is it takes all the data from all the teams and places it in an aggregate chart. So you can see that this is a very long chart. There's some fragmented data back here. What you can do is say, I only want to look at this from December 2017. So let's do that. December 2017. And I only want to go through September 2018. So you can quickly filter this down to just the time frame that you want. And then you can see as a whole how the project is doing. Okay. You can also download this data, and you can also get a chart, downloaded image of this chart as well. Okay, go back to the reports. This is something called small multiples, which is a way of looking at all of the teams with the aggregate, but also each individual team has their own little charts down here. So this way you can quickly see, because they're all using the same axis limits, you can quickly compare yourself to other teams. Go back to the reports. And then there is, so we haven't talked about status reports. I don't think that's something that you can be doing, at least in the beginning. And then there's PDSA activity summary, which if you start running PDSAs, you can do them in here. And then this is just a summary report for that. Again, that's probably for a later session. All right. So I will go back to the team home. And let's see. I think the only thing that's left right now to show you is the discussions. And then we can, if anyone wants more information about anything that I covered, we can go over that again. And then if there's any questions, we can go over that as well. So in the discussions, so if they were recent discussions, they would show up here. So obviously this is just a demo project, so there's nothing that's recent, but I can come in here and I can see all of the discussions for my team. Start with the most recent discussions at the top, and then the older ones at the bottom. And it shows you who started the discussion and how many replies there were for each of these. So this, I can click on and take a look at this. So there's 6 different replies in here. So we could see that the question was asked, and then these various people replied to each other and so forth. And if you wanted to make a comment in here, it's basically as simple as Facebook, just come down and to the bottom and say, you know, add my comment. And then it shows up here. So the way this works is if it's a new discussion for the team. So if somebody posts a brand new question to the team, everybody in the team will get a notification that there was a new question asked. After that initial one, only the people who are involved in the discussion will continue to get notifications of the replies. Okay, so you won't be inundated with emails with these discussions. And the same is for the project level discussions as well. So if you wanted to ask somebody a question on any team, you could come up to the project homepage and then go into the discussions and then ask a question in here. Okay. So I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover for this session. I don't know if there's any questions at this point, or if there's anything you wanted me to kind of go back to.
I don't see any questions as of this time, but I do have one not related to your presentation, which was exceptional, Michael. And that would be one of the participants on the line is under the phone number 908-342-5121. And just so that we can capture this information for our records, would you identify yourself, please? And you may need to unmute yourself to do that. Hello. Okay, so we're not hearing anything there. Perhaps you could shoot out a quick email to either Angie or Jake just to let us know that you were on the line. And that's it from my side.
Okay.
Questions from anyone else? And if you do have a question, you will need to unmute. Maybe we could unmute everybody in one fell swoop, Jake?
Everyone is unmuted.
Terrific. So, any questions? And I'm sure we'll have some that come up as we progress through the project, but we thought that this would be a good start to it. And of course, at your request, we're getting out to each one of the individual practices as we begin to discuss these. So we're happy to come out to your location and take you through this and other aspects of the project as well. But we do have one question, and that is, does the organization have to register as a whole and then individually? Michael, you went over that a little bit, but maybe you would recap that.
Sure. Yeah, so basically once, I'll go back to the actual project here. So once the teams have been set up, so these are organization teams, and you've been invited to join one of the teams, it's basically, that's all you have to do. So the organizations don't have to register. That's something that Jake has taken care of, and you can see the various groups that are in here now. And this list will obviously be growing over time. And once your team has been set up and once you've been added to the team as a key contact, you can add whoever you want to that team. So you don't have to register as an organization per se. Once you're part of the collaborative, Jake will add the team to the project, and then adding one person to that team who would be responsible for adding others is all that would have to be done.
Right, and in terms of a recommendation, so we're of course entering in data for each monthly cycle, and what is the recommendation for just having a safety net, so to speak? So there's going to be that individual who is likely to be earmarked as the individual who's going to input the data. But God forbid something happens to that person, and we want to have a backup to that and a process for a backup to that. And that would come under the two areas between administrator and project manager that you had referred to earlier. Do you recommend that as a best practice, Michael?
Yes. So you can add, if it's really just looking for having an additional person to do data entry and possibly upload documents and things like that, you can add a team contributor to the team. So they have pretty much everything that the team administrator can do, except for adding people to the team and things like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, Jake, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Well, we would like to thank everybody for attending today. This webinar has been recorded and will be made available at a later time. Michael, I would like to thank you for presenting today. And if there's any questions that you feel like you would like to ask in the meantime, please don't be afraid to email me at jsathmary@njaap.org. Thank you for your time today, everyone, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Thank you very much, everyone.